with regards to access to cannabis. With the Dangerous Drugs Act revision, there was the Cannabis Licensing Authority, which was created, and in addition, there were special protections put in place for sacramental use. And we're going to talk a little bit about and what it means to be a user and some of those questions. But just acknowledging that we are in a current medical state, a medical country. Right? We're going to continue the conversation with our physicians, who really are the gatekeepers of the industry, but they also open up the opportunity for people to not be persecuted and to be fully transparent about what ails them, so they can get the healing they need. I'd like to Dr. Knife, who is well loved and revered in our community here in Jamaica and abroad. Dr. Knife, please introduce yourself.
Please give thanks. Just to start about Jamaica and this thing about being legal or illegal. Strangely, I think Jamaica is one of the countries where ganja is illegal, but it's the only country in the world that ganja is actually free. Meaning that by law, there are restrictions on practices and use of the plant. I'm a researcher. I'm in the University of West Indies. I focus on long-term dynamic strategic planning techniques for sustainable development. So everything that I think about is within that kind of framework. Of course, guided by my lens of, that is how I live. That's the ethic and the philosophy that governs how I do things. Yes? A lot of work in development of communities, but focus on entrepreneurship. That's what I do at the university. I direct the entrepreneurship program, specifically social entrepreneurship. How do you create sustain? Yes, that generate multiple income values. And the ganja plant and the ganja industry to merge, that is one of the areas that expresses the most entrepreneurial characteristics, very innovative, very creative, etc. I've done work development models for the industry as well, but most importantly, I think I am a student. I tend to try to sit and learn from as many people as I can learn, because that is how they have be informed to develop strategies and plans and policies, etc. So let me stop right here.
I love that. A round of applause for Dr. Knife. He said he's a student first. So, I'm always suspicious of individuals who, although they've been given new information, they don't adjust their thinking. They don't adjust their decision making. So the fact that he's acknowledging that he's always in the posture of a student, because there's innovation, there's change, and there's new perspective. I think that's very admirable. In addition, we want to acknowledge that he's speaking about the spirit of entrepreneurship and is committed to that cause with university students, that we are preparing the next generation to create, but also to defend the rights that we have. Through entrepreneurship that we can get the fund, really solidify this place that we have as referenced in the laws with regards to ganja being free. So thank you for your work with our next generation, which is the future. And then I'm going to move on to Ras Kamal, who I've known for a number of years. I respect his work, and he's also my brother in Ethiopian World Federation as well, and is involved with Raga, RMO, and is on the board of the Cannabis Licensing. So this sends a very strong message that although he's on the board for the Cannabis Licensing Authority, he is always amongst the people. He's always looking to how that we can organize and centralize. We can make sure that we have the optimal policies in place to include all the people that need to be involved, to create a free and open market that's open to all people, and that we are ideating on what a perfect world could look like as we legalize, as free the plant, and as we educate people on proper and appropriate use of the plant to make sure that they have the best benefit for their health and for their spiritual wellness. Thank you, Brother Kamal. Please share more about your work.
Yes, greetings and give thanks to be here. So my name is Kamal Janai. As she said, I'm the Rastafari representative on the Cannabis Authority. But separate the problem that I'm part of a network known as RAGA, which is Rastafari Ganja and Grass Association, and also in recent times development of a more umbrella unit called RMO, which is Rastafari Mansion and Organization. I'm just one person who is part of a team that's struggling to go through a process of liberation and redemption for our people. Liberation in that it's the freedom to use what is rightfully ours. As Rastafari, the ganja is actually our sacrament, is what we use to connect with our Creator, connect with the Almighty, and also connect with nature. And redemption in terms of getting back what has been taken for us, because a lot of ones have been persecuted, abused in this very country for just having ganja, just using it. So like I say, I'm part of a team. We work closely with ones various organizations and various mansions, and we push the government in terms of all the agencies that are there to protect our rights and our sovereignty. So we do a lot of agitation with the Ministry of Justice. We agitate as well with the police because, as you well know, a lot of almost every day you hear in the news of ganja being person being prosecuted or held for ganja. Even Rastafari people who have that rights. So we are here to break those barriers and to create opportunities and facilitate our people in accessing what is rightfully theirs. It's the freedom and right to use ganja at their will. Rastafari.
Give thanks. A round of applause for Brother Kamal. So let's really dig into what it means to be medical. When you say cannabis is medical, there. First of all, let's talk about the name. So there's ganja, there's marijuana, there's weed, and we believe that terminology is very important. Words are very powerful, and I think universally as activists, we've kind of signed on for cannabis being the name to remove some of the racial undertone with terminology such as marijuana and things like that. But with that said, in the medical space, there's so many stories. And as a Rastafari community, we have been in a situation where our stories and our anecdotes have not been considered science. And it's been hazardous to our well being and our families for us to evangelize based on these true stories and anecdotes of how cannabis has healed from even adolescents and young children all the way through to the elderly and conditions such as glaucoma. Fortunately, now we see science is catching up. The medical profession is catching up with what Rastafari always knew. So I'm going to go to Dr. Rosado and really have him share some of his stories and experiences through the utilization of the cannabis plant, not as a cure, but as an option and a viable option in a treatment plan for someone with a chronic or fatal. Dr. Rosado, please share some of your learnings.
So, as a physician, I'm always asked, what's the difference between recreational use and medical use? And my response is, it's all medical, because we all have an endocannabinoid system. Right, my doctor? We all have an endocannabinoid system. We all produce cannabis. And so the fact that we use this plant from the outside in, it's working on those same receptors where our own production works. The problem is that as we age or as we suffer a dis-ease, not a disease, but if you take the word disease and split it, there's dis-ease, there's lack of ease. Our body's not working the way it was supposed to work. And when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, we need something to bring it back to balance, to maintain what we call in medicine homeostasis, to maintain that balance. And so when you are off balance, things happen. And as doctors, we label a condition. Oh, you have fibromyalgia. Oh, you have high blood pressure. Oh, you have epilepsy. Oh, you have XYZ. Well, the reality is that if your endocannabinoid system isn't working properly, you're going to have hundreds of diseases. So I start with that to segue into the first paper that I wrote, which is at that time she was 45 years old, and she was taking between 42 and 58 medications per day, which ranged from seizure medication, controlled substances for her pain, narcotics. And in the United States, there's this huge opiate crisis where people have become addicted to this narcotic, this drug that comes from a plant. It comes from the poppy that has been created in a lab. And has poisoned our country and our people. And so as a result of that, this woman was dependent and addicted on this medication that she couldn't function without it. Aside from that, she was on medication for her antidepressant. She was for anxiety. Then she was given medications to address the side effects of the medications that she was on. So for the narcotics, which caused constipation, they gave her a medication to soften her stools, and just on and on and on. And her life revolved around her cell phone alarm, because every so often she had to set the alarm to take her medication to remind her, because she was so doped up with all these medicines that she had no clue what she was doing. And all she did was sit around and drool all over herself. Once we started in the program, within 3 months, she was down patients per day, going from 42 to 58. And now, present, she's only on the plant and on nothing else.
That wasn't your cue to stop. I was just applauding that point. But free to jump in as needed. We're gonna have the same question for our Dr. Knight. However, I just want to call attention. We say words are powerful. We talked about disease, and it's dis-ease, right? And there's another physician that I love and appreciate, Dr. Nabalan, and she always talks about recreation. When people say recreational, they look at the same seriousness, but she says recreational, the root word for that is create. We want to recreate ourselves from the cellular level. We want to recreate our endocannabinoid system. We want to recreate that homeostasis and balance in our physical being. So I just wanted to highlight that touch point on, the importance of words and the importance of knowing the roots of words. So with that said, Dr. Knife, I'd love to hear from you as well these anecdotal stories that are now scientifically proven about cannabis being the healing of the nation.
I give thanks again. Just picking up from where Doc left off with the endocannabinoid system. People argue about 50 million years we love that kind of system to treat specific things relating to ultraviolet rays. Now that is important. We just had a big discussion about COP28 and this concern about climate change. You ask yourself, how is that climate change will affect people and countries? Individuals in terms of your health, because we know that climate change and increase in heat, that means lifestyle illnesses will get worse. Dementia-related illnesses will also get worse. Stress will get worse. There are so many that are going to get worse. If you talk about infrastructure and infrastructure development, how we design buildings and cleaner energy and breathable materials in terms of the clothes that you wear. Concerns about microplastic in synthetic fibers that we wear and how it is impacting people. You talk about the designs of the buildings that we have in terms of the materials that are being used and the heat that it traps as against using more breathable material. What hemp can do in terms of hempcrete. If you just listen to the news, you'll find that in Italy last year, they had to declare a state of emergency in about 600 cities because the buildings were melting. They were made from limestone. So if you're looking for some things, just to link it back to Jamaica now, I'm currently writing again the national and entrepreneurship policy. And writing the policy, you're thinking about development and entrepreneurship and different emerging issues that are very important. And also people talk about how you mainstream youth, how you get youth to be empowered. You talk about wealth creation, how you mainstream gender, you talk about how you empower women as well. And I'm going to show that in Jamaica, a lot of the youths are not involved in agriculture in terms of treasure involved in ganja farming. One of the best ganja farmers I know is Catherine Lennon, who's a sister, and she was phenomenal in terms of in terms of where she looks. How you mainstream the most vulnerable people with special needs. That spoke about those things. People, any kind of disabilities or any kind of dementia-related illness are considered to be people with special needs. The elderly as well. You talk about how you deal with the orange economy. The orange economy is a creative and cultural industries. You know the role that ganja play in terms of that industry as well. How you talk about the blue economy. You talk about ocean-related technologies. Whether you're making sails or when you talk about fishing nets or when you talk. There's so many things that the plant is involved in terms of the ocean economy. The green economy as well speaks to energy and design and agriculture. I was always advocating that in Jamaica we import about 1.6 billion US worth of food, which you shouldn't do. So we should have used ganja when it is being decriminalized to be a catalyst to move the agricultural sector forward. And that is not anything new, because as ganja farmers, by default, we had to conduct practices called integrated farming practices. We were planting ganja, but we were planting food to hide the ganja because it was illegal. What you need, the only marriage that can have a divorce is ganja and food. Once you do a herb, you must eat food. So it makes no sense you're going to plant a lot of herb, but not plant a lot of food. We're going to use that opportunity to encourage young people to become involved not only in ganja farming, but also in food farming as well. There's also concern about what is called the silver economy, how you provide goods and services to people who are over 50 years old. And once people start reaching a certain age, they start to have a certain amount of illnesses. The ganja industry has a lot of opportunity to produce these kinds of things for those persons as well. So if you think about a plan that can feed, clothe, and shelter yourself and move your country out of a state of inertia into a state of high growth, few plans by themselves can do that. Ganja, I think, is the king of all of those plants. You probably have something else like a coconut plant as well, and also a bamboo plant. And incidentally, in Jamaica in the 1970s, the two plants that destroyed in Jamaica was the ganja plant and the coconut plant. I know there's no such thing as coincidence. Coincidence is law not recognized, man. Not by chance. These are things that people know will happen. But again, Earth is set in such a way that you can't fight creation. So the more you fight the plant and the more things are changing, the plant is becoming even more important. It's becoming even more important for the persons who originally started to fight the plant, because let us face the fact people are Caucasians are more risk from climate change to their own physical well-being than anybody else. So there's an increasing interest in how we treat dementia-related illnesses. So people are talking to plant plants for CBD. Why you want to plant plants for CBD? Because CBD is very used and treats dementia-related illnesses. But in Jamaica, is that the major concern? It might be that our major concern in Jamaica is stress, which is the biggest killer of people in the world. So the recreation component now becomes extremely important. But in terms of anything that you are using, you must understand how that plant affects you physically, emotionally, and spiritually as well. So having a better understanding of the plant is crucial. And I must end by saying this. When Euro-American people tell you something, if they say to you that marijuana is a drug, you will not run them down. It is a drug because I'm telling about what they have over there. What does that mean? In Jamaica, ganja is not a drug. Ganja is a plant. But when they create that thing that they create in their lab and they say it's a drug, do not question them because they make a drug. And you're finding out that some of these drugs that they have created a state of imbalance in the plant itself.
Exactly.
That now leads to a further imbalance in the people who uses that plant. And you can say, okay, these are the effects or the side effects of consuming a drug. So you know what it means then? Having your own seeds, creating your own seed bank, knowing what you put in yourself. The only person who knows that actually consumes is the person who planted it. Yes? So it is speaking about the importance of ensuring that we know what we have, create our own products. Do not get into quarrel with people about what they're saying they're supporting you with. You don't need that. Make your own products, create your own market space, and use the product as it should be used. But in this time, if you're really thinking about what Jamaica is trying to do with Vision 2030, if you're thinking about what the globe is trying to do in terms of combating climate change and mainstream certain elements, the ganja plant, as was years ago, centuries ago, will re-emerge as probably the most important plant on the face of the earth because of the amount of uses that it has in a sustainable way. That's it. It is in a very sustainable way. I think that is part of the thing that we need to emphasize. You don't need to put on all of these chemicals that you use on other plants. You don't need to use no pesticides. You don't need to use no fertilizers. None of those things that you need to use. As a matter of fact, the more you go to the original state of the plant, the better it is for you. And let me just end right there.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Definitely want to highlight the fact that you referenced and recognized Sister Kathy Lennon. She's a dear friend. I talked to her this week, and she's an amazing ganja grower. So we want to shout out to women ganja growers, Jamaican ganja growers, people who used to be in hiding that can now be.
Let me just say something what is important, which Kathy said to me. Years ago, when you look at the plant Remember, we have the male and the female plant. And what Cathy was always arguing is that we know that the female plant we want to have the psychoactive properties. But the ganja industry was actually a male dominated space. So Cathy's motion was to let females be the one who plant the female plant. You know, and you know the relationship between sisters and earth and planting. You know, we used to have some kind of myth in Jamaica, you know, about when you plant in the plant, and my sister going through a cycle and she going to the plant, what is going to happen to the plant and things. It was really just madness. The best set of ganja I use in Jamaica actually came from Cathy. As simple as that.
Give thanks. So we want to honor her today. I hope she's watching. So much love for her and what she does, not only in Jamaica, but the United States, as well as in South Africa. She is an international hero for this plant. Give thanks for that. Another great nugget that came out of this discussion was integrative agricultural practices and that love story between ganja and food, and making sure that we facilitate that, but not only facilitate it, that we're really thinking about the future of what that can look like by working with our youth and getting them involved. Youth are now being more enticed to look at agriculture because of cannabis, because of ganja. It is an attractor. Especially in the Caribbean, we've had the stigma around planters. Oh, you're just digging around in the soil, and then farmers, what they want is to earn so that their kids can go to college and not necessarily become an agriculturalist, and take over the business and grow the business, but become doctors, lawyers, and I appreciate that. I'm an attorney myself, but there's also something to be said for really encouraging students who have that aptitude for growing things to really explore the agricultural sector, agricultural opportunities. There are plenty of opportunities all around the world with regards to this. It's a huge missed opportunity for our children when we don't recognize that they do have this aptitude for agricultural things. And when we're talking about agriculture, we're also talking about aquaculture and shellfish and understanding aquatic systems and things like that. It goes beyond that. When you look at everything that we have on our bodies, when we look at everything we have in our house, not just the majority, but close to 100% of those things have come from agricultural products. Everything you have on.
The key is the whole idea of value chain. I'm not jumping on top of it. When you start looking at agriculture and value chain, you will find that there's a space where people can explore the most. So if you want to be a pharmacologist, you want to be a doctor, whatever you want to be, we always link back into the earth. And so any student, any youth can look at agriculture value chain, ganja value chain in particular, and pick anywhere they want to start to specialize in, because there's so many opportunities there. Unlike in other areas that we tend to try to steer our children in, which many of them are going to become redundant. So when you talk about a traditional medical doctor who might be a surgeon, with the advent of robots and AI, they probably have less need for that surgeon. So many jobs are going to become redundant. But one thing we know is that people always need the thing that comes from that ganja plant, whether it's food, whether it is healing from stress, etc. So a lot of things are there in terms of opportunities for young people.
And we are sitting and standing in the country that has not only the greatest abundance of indigenous plants known to man, but also the fact that in Jamaica we have the best universities in the world, especially specifically their agricultural departments, especially the health sciences department, especially the pharmacology departments, the medical schools that we have right here in Jamaica. So to the future. And speaking of the future, the last point is how many people, there was a reference to Jamaica 2030. How many of us know what Jamaica 2030 is? Okay, so please expand on Jamaica 2030. I'd like to hear Kamal's on that as well. And then I have a question for Ross Kamal.
Vision 2030 states that you want Jamaica to be the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. There are 4 main goals: that all Jamaicans are empowered to achieve their fullest potential, that the society is cohesive and just, that we have a strong economic system, And the fourth one is that have a really good environmental structure as well. And of course, there are a number of other outcomes that surround those things, and those are also linked into what we call the sustainable goals: zero poverty, zero hunger, access to clean water, access to healthcare, access to promoting gender equality. Have about 17 of those goals as well. Yes, so in terms of what Jamaica long-term development strategy is, and 2030 is not far from now. You know, the idea is that they want to establish a sustainable system for development. And of course, agriculture is a very crucial element in that as well.
And that's exactly why I became an agricultural attorney after I was a ganja attorney. So I was a ganja attorney first. Then I was like, oh no, I'm missing the big thing, which is agriculture and protection of our IP around our genetics and breeding and things like that. Brother Kamal, I'd love your perspective on Jamaica Vision 2030. And then I also want to roll into back to that anecdotal question about all these stories that we knew to be true that were disputed, until science seemed to back up Rastafari.
All right, give thanks. So 2030, we are in 2024 now, so that's 6 years away. I'm telling you, people, we still have a long way to go. Because I'm so deeply entrenched in the process, I will still push my points on access and freedom and persons exercising their rights. Let me zone in a quick thing. How many persons here are actually Jamaicans in the sitting here with us? Yeah, just show me your hands who are Jamaicans. Okay, good. How much persons who are here are Jamaicans are actually growing 5 plants in their home, in their house? 2 hands. So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes what we have, we don't use what we have and we don't know what we have. So part of my mission is to educate people on their right to know that you can actually grow the plant. Last year has been a very interesting year for us in the Rastafari and Ganja movement, in that for the first time the government actually, through a lot of force and pressure and agitating with them, they actually recognize that we have some sacramental spaces, and we declare these spaces, and they actually came and recognized the spaces. So up to the 3rd of August last year, there was a document that was issued through a ministerial order, which was a gazetted document that recognizes it's about I think it's about 59 or 60 sacramental spaces. Meaning that these are spaces where Rastafari gather and grow the herb, cultivating under their own conditions and ways for the sharing with their people. So we have 60 spaces that were declared last year, and I'm telling you, we have another 30 coming up since that time. But the thing about it is that even while this is happening, and while we're in a space like Herb Curb celebrating the ganja, we still have a lot of issues. Just a couple days ago, I happened to be in court with a Rastafari brethren he actually has a booth here, Rasnigos from Root House. He's a well-known Rastafari brethren in Montego Bay for several years, 20, 30, 40 years. As a space that's well recognized, well known, and you have Herb there that he shared with his brethren once. And he had a case, police went on him, took away the herb and said he was actually dealing. They actually charged him for possession and dealing. The court case went on for an entire year. I came from Kingston to Montego Bay 4 times within the last month or 2. The case, he putting off. The final verdict was Thursday gone, and they found him guilty, saying that, okay, he has a Rastafari, he has a right to possess the ganja, which there's no limit on that, just to let everybody know that. But based on what he was doing there, they're saying that he was actually dealing. They didn't go and see him exchanging cash for the herb or anything, but they still had a case to say that he was dealing. So I'm saying that that's something that we need to go forward to, and say I mean not just rather our arm or the whole Rastafari community, and also persons who are concerned about freedom rights, to push again to say, let's just have what we call sacramental distribution centers. And let's not fool ourselves, these centers actually exist. I'm sure Brother Knife can support that. We have herb circles right across Jamaica, where persons bringing ganja trade for food is a big underground economy. So we're saying bring the underground economy up now and recognize these commercial distribution centers, so brethren can have the herb there, and ones can come and collect the herb, give a contribution they so desire, and disperse this herb at their own freedom. So that's our next step. That's part of the bigger mission that we need to come to get a control of the situation.
Well, congratulations on that. Dr. Rosado, you had a point, and I have a couple questions in the audience.
To dovetail on what Dave said, and also the question that Cheryl posted earlier, was about the situation where science has to come in and say, okay, this works or doesn't work. Cheryl and I were at an event 2 months ago in Portland, Oregon. And I was on a panel with two colleagues, and I'll use because they were not real colleagues. I shared with them the story I shared with all of you earlier today about that patient that went from 42 to 58 pills per day down to 0 pills per day. And one of the individuals stated, well, Dr. Joe is such a compassionate and caring doctor that he takes care of his patients. And I really believe that if he had used anything other than that drug, that patient would have responded exactly the same way. To which my response was, if that placebo that you're talking about had suffered and sustains the endocannabinoid system, then yes, they would have had the same exact results. But if they would have had sugar water, it wouldn't have done a damn thing. So don't sit here and tell me, oh no, marijuana, cannabis, ganja is the placebo effect. It's anecdotal. People think that they're getting better, and so because they think they're getting better, they are. No, they're getting better because we are all getting better, because we all have a system in our body that craves this medicine for us to function.
Give thanks. And I want to pause here because I see that there may be some interaction from the audience that might be necessary. And I want us to really recognize what's happening in this space. As Rastafari, we understand that as much work is happening in the spiritual realm as is happening right here in our work and our actions, our words and our actions. And with that said, I want to acknowledge that we have ancestors present right now today, right here in this conversation. We have our elders, and we'll hear from one of our elders who has something to say today. We have our bridge builders, those that tie generations together, which is my age group and the work that we're doing presently. And then we have the future, which are the young people. And we encourage our young people, our youth, to get involved in these conversations. The youth are used as a shield to progress with regards to this plant. Everybody all of a sudden becomes concerned about our youth when it comes to ganja and ganja being free, but they don't have that concern with regards to the youth when it comes to access to food and access to shelter and things like that. So I just wanted to really recognize the spiritual work that's happening here between the ancestors, our elders, our bridge building age group or generation, and our youth, which is our future. And this is a very special time right now in this place. With that said, thank you for your patience, sir. You said you wanted to share a little bit of your background and experience. Please share with the audience.
I'm Rasmus Rob from a compound town in Central today. I used to cultivate a lot of herb, tons of herb, not 1 ton, tons. And I never usually use no fertilizers, right? I use the natural earth, the rock back down that we get from the cave, that we take and plant it. We also have the best herb in this Jamaica, from their compound village. A man by the name of Mr. Locke, an inspector that was in Montego Bay, he came up there and raided us, sent us to prison for herb. And I look you right now, and the inspector of police in charge of herb, Mr. Ellington, the custom, Mr. Walker, I don't call him name, right? And I do over 20 odd years of punishment for herb. And I am here.
Please repeat that.
I am doing about 20 odd years of punishment for herbs in Jamaica.
Those are ganja war veterans, the
Yes,
people who are
herb.
incarcerated. They had their freedom
Yes,
taken away from them.
incarceration.
Families were separated due to a plant. So
Just
please
through a
continue.
plant.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Just so plant. I suffered. And I am here still. Here they are. Here they are, the Prime Minister of this country, Honorable Bustamante. 18 months, he and Mr. Shearer give us in prison for a ganja stick. I've been there. Michael Manny come and free us. But from that cruel atrocities, right? We still fighting it. We have a company by the name of Kings. Time, sometimes like good times or bad times come from America come here. Right? Come to Negro to keep a ganja fest. High times. And you come here with this genetical herb to kill out our good herb here. This chemical, this lab herb, that when you plant a seed this year, you cannot get a next seed to plant back next year. Our herb was here before that. So we burn that for the Rastafari up to this day. So when we come this now, we only planted herb for our Nayabingi brethren, the Rasta brethren, but we cannot import herb from Jamaica. We want an importation, the government should take it in hand, have a place that buy the herb that we plant, not the artificial herb that they carry from Paris come here and plant. That killing out the nation. It turn the women in a lesbian land and turn the man them in sodomy in this country right now. You check it out. I probably won't be here when it's going to happen. But I know that one day we will see that herb that they are carrying here, what it does to us as black people.
That's a really important point about supply chain
Yeah.
and sustainability and having our own and knowing the chain of custody
Yeah.
with regards to the plants and
Yeah.
in considering in looking at Rastafari, the nuances of Rastafari. Not every mansion believes the same. Not every mansion believes the same about fertilizer. Some people, some organic is
Nothing
enough.
organic.
I was having this conversation about what is the standard, and I know there's a lot of work that Ras Kamal is going to share with us. But so for some Rastafari, just organic is enough. Other Rastafari, they don't want it. It's ITAL. It's no use of animal anything. I like veganic standards myself. So we have to understand the chain of custody. So that is a very important point, and that's why I came up with my 4 models for incorporating sacramental use into legal structures. So the first model is just what it is, the Jamaica model, which is keep them distinct and separate while allowing for commercialization for sacramental. So we have the Minister of Justice over sacramental here, and we have CLA over commercialization. That would be the Jamaican model that countries all around the world could choose from. The second model has to do with home grow.
Homegrown.
So there's a growing acceptance of people being able to grow their own for their health and wellness. So if a person in their home can grow their own, why can't a house of worship grow their own for their people, for their membership? So that's the second model. The third model is having a small vertical, which is what we would call like a micro business license, where you get to do everything once you get that license in a way for your membership, for your family. You can breed, cultivate, process, transport, distribute, as well as have consumption environments. And that would be the third model. And the fourth model is where all the other ones are absent. You build your micro license within your community by saying, hey, you go for the cultivation license. And then you're going to go for the processing license. And then you over there, you're going to go for the dispensing license. And you build that vertical so we understand that chain of custody. So Ross Buzzrock, thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to move on. I think there's another question. Sister right here has a comment or a question. We'd love to hear from you today.
Give thanks. Blessed love.
Blessed love, sis.
Firstly, I would love for the doctor gentleman I would love for the doctor gentleman to expound on the word medicinal molestasis in his speech. Just expound on it for us a little. And I wish to suggest that these forums that we have from time to time be handled in a more relatable way. Like we can communicate more with the host of the program. Because when ones and one make speeches and we leave here, most time we don't even remember what ones and one say. So if we can relate to each other more, interact, right? Interact is the word, with each other more. I think it will be more effective. And there's so many things to talk about, but in this forum here at Rebel Salute, where so many patrons come, why these forums only attract this amount of people? And we so believe that ganja is the way out. So we are the people. We every time I come here, the same few people come to sit right here. So something is wrong. Something is not being done, or we don't believe in what we are saying, or something. We are so far apart from each other. This is like social distancing. And that is the only thing that can keep us apart, social distance. And that is what's happening here. So I don't want to keep up this thing, but there are lots of questions to be asked. One question: what are we doing relating to what the brother was saying? What are we doing to secure our original ganja seedlings, because we know what they are doing already, right, with the GMO. So what are we doing? Are we doing enough work to secure our seedling that we can have a longer future for our own ganja plant, if it is at least possible?
So I'll take the low-hanging fruit, easy questions. I'm going to ask Mel to come forward as well, so we can talk a little bit about delivery systems in the medical profession. But first, to your point about being more interactive, I couldn't agree more, and that is what we're trying to facilitate. This is probably my 5th year doing either being a moderator or a panel for the Rebel Salute Herb, and we try to make it more and more engaging, more and more interactive as we go along. So I hope that you recognize this conversation that we're having now as a step in that direction, and we want to hear more from the audience. We're aspiring to be on the main stage at a certain point, and I know Neil and Dominic, every year they tell me they're on that trot. That's one of their missions that they're working on. I don't want to forget your other questions and things like that, but I think Ras Kamal can speak more to the protection of the intellectual property that is brand Jamaica, but also brand Rastafari, and some work that's being done from an intellectual property protection standpoint. And when we look at it from an intellectual property perspective, we want to make sure that we get credit for what we have created. But the other part is we want to make sure that someone else does not take credit and restrict our access to our genetics that we know has healing properties for the body. So with that, I'm going to hand to Ras Kamal. And you had a specific question for Dr. Rosado. And then we're going to make sure that he gets to answer that question for you. So we give thanks for your presence here today and your willingness to participate. Sure. So let's. I'm going to ask you, with your permission, if we can expand that conversation about CBD to talking about the minor cannabinoids. So we're talking about CBD, CBG, CBN, and some of the other minor cannabinoids. One of my first clients was a CBD company, and they were a mom and pop's company. When I left, they soon were sold for $40 million. So I see the value in that. Another company, mom and pop store, they have over 1,000 stores now, and I registered them, and it registered their product in Jamaica. I also registered product in England. So I am with you on this need for us to understand minor cannabinoids. But yes, Ras Kamal, I don't want to take any more time away from your discussion on intellectual property protection.
Okay, well, let me first declare that I'm no expert on intellectual property rights, but being in this space, I do know that there are certain things that we do. Rastafari, we are a creative set of people, we have created a lot of words that are used in the Jamaican vernacular. Aeration, iritical, irie, even the word irie. As a matter of fact, a couple years ago, there was a situation where a group of persons wanted to use the word irie. Forget about RFN now, but in recent times, irie for a particular product and service, and it was actually blocked because they had to get the permission of the Rastafari community to actually use that words. So it's a serious thing that you can't just go about using the words loosely anymore. You have to give the right to the people who create these things. So I'm saying Rastafari, we are creative people, and we have a lot of words that are in our pool that we really should harness. That's one thing. So the other another question.
No, that was specific to the intellectual property protection. I also know that Rastafari, Ganja Global, they do some work with regards to that, some significant work. Sister Maxine Stowe, I would have a conversation with her. I think she's very accessible about that because that's something she's very passionate about. And yes, ma'am. That, but that's intellectual property protection. That's that where that stands. Your authority to have access to your seedlings and commercialize your seedlings and have them have a name all ties into intellectual property rights. So that's why I was suggesting that there are people on island that are taking on that mantle, and that you should engage with people on island first, and then there's a lot of international experts. But I think no one loves home like people from home. So that's why I wanted to share with you, like, I'm not on the island all the time. I'm here frequent, but not as often as I would like. But so I'm going to say I'm not the one who's the expert to really to respond to your question, but I know someone who talks about that, if not daily, definitely on a regular basis, and that's Sister Maxine Stowe, and she's accessible. So for you to get a full answer to your question, it's going to have to take place outside of this forum, but with somebody who is of our country, which is very encouraging because we have the talent right here in Jamaica to really fully manifest what you're ideating.
Right, but if I could may just quickly manifest on what the sister was saying, one of the issues that I have personally is even our own space in terms of the strains that we have. We end up using a lot of foreign names on these strains and continue using them. Why can't we, Jamaicans as creative people, create some really high level name for the strains that we are creating? A lot of cross pollination is taking place, and there are some exciting things happening local ganja. And as I said, we need to have seed bank. But please, let us create our own names for these products because it's ours, and then we can share with the world. Because anything Jamaica can create, the rest of the world will take it and run with it. So I love to see that change taking place where we have some strains, some real heretical names. Yes, sir. Oh, yes.
I'm gonna ask that while you get a microphone, Dr. Rosado answers the other part of this young lady's question, and then I will receive your question. And then I'd like Mel, who is an amazing, dynamic entrepreneur, allow her to speak about delivery systems for cannabis.
So, yes, medicinal homeostasis. So homeostasis is really not medicinal. It is how our body's supposed to work. So homeostasis means balance. So when our body is out of balance, we are not in homeostasis, okay? It's not the way it's supposed to be. And so when we start not being in balance, that's when we have dis-ease, lack of ease. And as a result of that, the way to recover that is to bring the body back to balance. And the best way to bring the body back to balance is to restore what we know to be the endocannabinoid system, the system in our body that produces cannabis, and as a result of that production, maintains our body in an even state. When we are off balance for whatever reason, whether it's stress, anxiety, depression, etc., our endocannabinoid system drops. If we are in chronic pain, our endocannabinoid system drops. As we age, our endocannabinoid system production also drops. And so when we are not able to produce our own, we need it from the outside. So endo means within, exo means from the outside in. So we need it exogenously or from the outside in to support us. to address the other question that you talked about, the minor cannabinoids, whether it's CBD, CBG, CBN, THCV, etc. Every one of those work in a different receptor in our body, okay? And so as we use them, they work in different areas in our body for a specific purpose. The term has been coined the entourage effect. Entourage meaning like a symphony, okay? So let's say you and I go on a date. Are you okay if I take you out on a date? Okay. So you and I go on a date and we go to the orchestra and we listen to the symphony, okay? And you have all these different sections in the orchestra. You have the brass section, you have the percussion, you have the woodwind, you have the strings, you have everybody, right? And everybody's playing together and it's very harmonious, very beautiful to our ear, okay? Every once in a while, a specific section has a solo. And so we'll hear the brass section just play for a little bit and then they go back and then everybody starts playing again, right? It's the same thing with the cannabinoids. Each cannabinoid is like a different instrument or different section in the orchestra, and each one works to do a specific thing. And whenever we need more, that plant is so brilliant and intelligent that it knows exactly where it needs to go and what it needs to do in our body. Okay? So it's just that maintaining that balance. And so that's why we call and talk about the entourage effect, because we need all of the cannabinoids to work together for different roles and purposes. Okay?
And I made us a summary here because reinforces the point that was made by the elder and the two elders. Because remember, if you're in a state of imbalance, I want to rebalance. You cannot consume a plant that is also in a state of imbalance. And these drugs that I'm saying out here will have increased the THC disproportionate to the CBD. This is actually a balance. I will actually put in a greater state of imbalance. Which means that it's important as the iron sheet that we need to get back that original 6 to 9 month herb because it's in a perfect state of balance. That's what I say. So really we're going to set back the system and we start also the plant that we're using. We can't run. I remember the place that has the greatest amount of receptors for the cannabinoids said to be your brain and your liver. They can't ramp in the brain. We can't ramp in the brain. So we take this here very, very serious.
Excellent, absolutely, and we touched on it a little bit. We were talking about how do plants become pharmaceutical, and plants become pharmaceutical when you start isolating compounds. So that's when we're talking about minor cannabinoids. It's science, and we want to have the knowledge, but we want to make sure that we are maintaining that homeostasis. We're in the plant. We want to make sure that we have that entourage effect of how harmoniously all the compounds or the plant chemistry itself works for the greatest good for the individual. And that's what is so beautiful and majestic and about the cannabis plant, about ganja, is the fact that it affects different ways. So for the medical community, sometimes they see that as a restriction or a bad news story. The fact that I don't know how to dose. We're so brainwashed because of the years of prohibition and the exemption of cannabis science from medical school that we think that's a bad thing. I don't know how to dose. They can't tell me the specific amount that I need to dose this patient for this particular indication. No, that's not how cannabis works, because cannabis is a science of homeostasis. So cannabis is a plant that is a mirror to your body. It's a mirror to your body. There's balance. So a cannabis plant, once it is consumed, ingested, and becomes a part of your chemistry, it adjusts based on what the needs are for your endocannabinoid system to bring your system into homeostasis. So you're like, this person has a high tolerance, or this strain is the only thing that works for me. That is homeostasis. That is the fact that this is a plant that is a mirror to the human body. And it was criminal in so many ways that it was restricted and demonized, and we haven't had access to it until the recent days of legalization. So I think it's a really important question about the minor cannabinoids. I'm curious too. I want to know more about them and what they do. Which one makes you sleep? Which one helps with fertility? Which one? I want to know, but that doesn't mean that I believe that we cannot really still be activists and advocate for whole plant medicine. Yes. Because that is by divine design that this plant introduced to this person will affect this person one way. And then introduced to this other person will affect them the other way in order to bring their bodies into full homeostasis. So we give thanks to the question and the conversation. And, when we're talking about medical cannabis, it's really important. We get a lot of you get a little bad reputation of people like smoking can't be medical, and things like that. We have a number of delivery systems for the plants, just like plants affect people different. Different delivery systems are needed for people based on their condition, based on their age, based on their ability to use their appendages and things like that. So I wanted to introduce Mel. She's my good friend for many, many years. We all know her in Jamaica for her work with regards to advancing knowledge about the plant, making the plant fun and easy to integrate into family conversations and creativity, as well as her production of her edible line as well. So we're going to talk about edibles as a form of a necessary form of delivery of cannabis, especially to patients. So, Mel, can you expand on that?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me join the panel today. This is my first panel discussion, so I'm feeling very honored to be sitting here with each and every one of you guys. And some of you guys know who I am. Some of you guys don't know. I'm Mel of Mel Street Eats, known to be Jamaica's leading cannabis edibles brand, awarded by the Ganja Growers Association of Jamaica 2 years in a row. And I've been in this space for 9 years. Edibles is still not something that is legal. So I'm very grateful that places like Rebel Salute even allow us to have it. Edibles can be taken in so many different forms. You can use it as tinctures, you can have it in cookies, you can have it in drinks, you can use it in so many different ways. And I would love to see edibles at some point become something that we can give to our patients because not everybody wants to smoke. Not everybody wants to, but that's an easier way for people to be able to consume. Still not sure what the holdup is. I mean, we are behind when it comes to the edible space. I do know education is a must. So that is one thing I try to make sure that I constantly do. My products are not readily available to the public because of the fact that one, it's not legal, and I want to take that time to educate each and every single person before they consume because of the mere fact that yes, everybody's body is different. And I don't know what your body makeup is or your body makeup is. I don't know if you have food in your stomach. I don't know if you're consuming alcohol with these edibles. I mean, when edibles was banned, I think it was a Stepping High festival. A couple had some edibles there. And unfortunately, they had a bad reaction. But no one ever asked them what they did or didn't do. No one ever asked them, were you drinking when you consumed? Did you have food in your stomach? But right off the bat, they said, you know what? Edibles banned. So I mean, I stopped going to a lot of the meetings because every time I would go to the meeting, all I would hear is edibles, still not legal, moving on. I'm gonna stop here. I don't really have much to say, but I'm still learning. I'm still a student. I'm excited to learn from Doc over here. And Dominic has something that he would like to say. And yeah, I'm gonna pass the mic. If you guys have any questions, I'm here for a little bit.
Something very similar to what she just shared happened in Colombia. I travel to Colombia on a yearly basis. I am the scientific advisor to a company there, and they had an event very similar to this, and they had edibles. The challenge with edibles is, as she stated so eloquently, everybody's metabolism is different. How we ingest, how we metabolize is very different. I am very, very fast at metabolizing CBD, but I'm very, very slow in metabolizing THC. And so I have to find the balance between the two so that I can take advantage of both and be able to be properly medicated. What happened in Colombia, because people have a delayed reaction, it can take up to 2 hours before you feel an effect. And so what is the natural instinct of the human? I'm going to take something, and if I ingest it, if I chew it and swallow it, it's going to have to work immediately because that's the way it's supposed to be. The problem with edibles is that it can take up to 2 hours. Because we are impatient people, after 1 hour we say, oh, this is nothing, this didn't do anything, let me have another one, or let me have two more. And then, and 30 minutes to an hour later, you have the paramedics reviving you. Not that anybody's ever died from it, but they come over because now your heart rate is beating fast, and you're paranoid, and you're seeing people, and you're seeing things, and you're talking to the dead, which is very far-fetched, but many people will talk about that. And so it's because of that lack of education and lack of understanding. I'm a big advocate and proponent of using all modes of administration because each one starts at a specific moment, stops at a specific moment, and so you want to mix and match them so that way you are medicated more consistently throughout the day. So I always say use everything. Inhale, use a tincture, use an edible, use a topical, patch or a cream, and mix them all because each one in medicine we have a big word called pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics, meaning how things respond and how long they work in our bodies. By mixing them up, we are better, we are treating the patient and the individual much better than if we drink.
Completely agree with that. And my final note on that is not even specific to delivery, but we have to be careful when we're by people in government, not physicians, saying, "Oh, this is what I think is safe," and that's so to our patients. The only that we see that has been documented in those strategies is the fact that patient costs go up. So if I need certain amount of milligrams of THC or certain percentage of THC to get that remedy for what I'm feeling with regards to my chronic condition, then I'm going to take it until I get to that amount. Because again, it's a very individual conversation or individual experience for the cannabis consumer. So instead of them getting a recommendation for a certain amount, or when they're going to be restricted, they're just going to triple up. But guess what? Their costs are going up by 3 times. So we really need to be careful as we're looking at, because we're building towards that. How do we revise this control? Because it's a very fluid plant, and after all, it is just a plant. Give thanks. Did you have something to say, Dominic?
I have
Thanks.
one I'll start with first is role in helping local medicinal cannabis register products with Ministry of Health. I think a big gap in the understanding of that process. So according to the Ministry of Health, anything that is ingested as cannabis still listed as I think category 2 pharmaceutical drug, which means that you have to prepare a product dossier, shows stability reports, shows clinical data that validates any potential claims that are attached to how that particular product is expected to react in your system, and based on that, how it can be distributed. Hence the reason why edibles is still considered illegal, because according to the Ministry of Health, it is not something that they are ready or in a current position to regulate. Another element is that we don't have, in my opinion, enough medical physicians who have a genuine interest in cannabis as part of the Ministry of Health's committee responsible for cannabis regulation. They play a critical part in the types of products. Where as it relates to buds and flowers, those are regulated by the Cannabis Licensing Authority for distribution. As it relates to any value-added product, those things tend to go through the Ministry of Health. There's far less restrictions on topical solutions. Anything that is orally ingested goes through a far more stringent process. And that is where we have the problem. Because the people who are reviewing these product dossiers aren't necessarily for the use of ganja. So it then goes through an extra layer of scrutiny. So that is a part of the problem that we face. We don't have enough people who are in the medical profession in Jamaica who are for ganja. And so because of that, we're not going to get the type of support that it requires from a medicinal perspective, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's why we bring in Dr. Rosado, because again we have some of the best physicians. Like Cuba gets a lot of credit for their physicians. Jamaica has phenomenal physicians and nurses. Our nurses are known around the world, and a lot of the cannabis legalization that's taken place globally has been from nurses more so than physicians.
Precisely.
Patients Out of Time is an organization founded by a nurse, Mary Lynn Mathry, and they gave the first CMEs on cannabis, and it's a nurses founded organization. So I just want to really big up Jamaica with regards to our medical prowess and aptitude and recognition around the world, and that we can do better because we do have those professionals here. It's just like we want to make sure. This is something I always say to my son Judah is like, you have a right to change your perspective when you're given new information. Sometimes we make people so locked in, and I heard someone in my family say to him because he changed his whether what chicken sandwich he liked best or whatever. So they're like, you don't have, you've no loyalty. And I said, boy, like pull all that. If he changed, which now that's his favorite, it has nothing to do with loyalty. It has to do with the fact that he has new information and he's making a more informed decision. So just taking that to, bring it back to our conversation, we need medical professionals that are willing to, it doesn't mean you're admitting you're wrong. It just means that you care enough about your patient community that when presented with vision, that you will adapt your practice. So we give that
to share was to based on the conversation about intellectual property. So as it relates to ganja, we know a lot of intellectual property most times is focused on naming. But naming is only one thing. The real value is using geographical indicators, just the same way that we do with wine. And if it's not wine that is produced from a particular region, it can't be named a Merlot or a Chardonnay or etc. In Jamaica, we have several different regions that are world for the quality of the herb. And the herb from those regions, those who know, produces different characteristics. So when you get something from an orange hill, it have a different flavor profile, a different terpene and flavonoid profile from the things that grow from the hills of St. Anne, right? And there are people who are here, such as Dr. Michelle Emmanuel, who runs the plant life sciences at UWI, who has done extensive research on strains and has been doing that across the region as well to identify landrace strains, which is what the elder was speaking about, and preserving those. There is some semblance of a seed bank that exists, and there is work being done to protect and to develop those strains. And then there's other entities outside of Marshall and Life Sciences that are doing that work as well to ensure that we are, one, cultivating strains that are economically sustainable for the region. So there is research that has been done into looking at how these strains are grown in Jamaica in terms of the inputs, how much water it requires, whether or not it is more sustainable without water, whether it is pest resistant or not, how that impacts the region that it is grown in, because some regions are more prone to moisture, which is going to lead to mold and things like that. Some regions, based on the heat, is going to be more prone to certain types of pests. Certain strains are automatically pest resistant, mold resistant. So work is being done on the island, and it is important that we have forums like these that continue to provide a platform where the ones can share more knowledge about the work that is being done so more people can know. Because the biggest problem that we have in Jamaica right now is that the ganja industry has been formalized for 8 years, since 2016. However, we do not have enough information being shared. So too many people are in the dark about what is going on and what is not going on. And the whole purpose of the herb curve is really to share that information and provide a space so that people can know more about what is going on. Because if we leave it up to the government, it never happens. So we give thanks to everybody that is here right now, listening in, and we give thanks to the panel who has, sacrificed them time to come and share. And that is all I have to say.
Thanks. That's really profound, Dominic. Thank you so much. And I referenced him as one of our organizers of the Herb Curb, so we always, give thanks to him. But what he's referencing as far as some things get moldy. You need to understand. It's agriculture, best management practices. You have best management practices for your lettuce and your celery and your tomato and your carrots and cannabis as well, because it's a plant. So we don't have to deviate too far from what's already happening. One other point that came to mind, it's an adjacent point, it's not an exact point to what he said, but it has to do with like testing labs and testing standards, and why are we testing cannabis for contaminants in a more robust and way than we do our things that we put in nutrition. So we really have to make sure that when we get rid of the reefer madness, when we get rid of the discrimination against the plant, the demonizing of the plant, we take it to the higher levels with our intellectuals in universities, our intellectuals in Rastafari, our intellectuals, across Jamaica, and we really think, push back on these things that are demonizing these plants. Cannabis should not be held to a higher standard than your produce that you're creating. You shouldn't be looking to a million for other plants, and then to a billionth or a trillionth degree for a cannabis plant when you're doing laboratory testing. Those are things that are very harmful, and those are things that create protocols that a small farmer cannot afford to do. So there are a lot of equity and equality conversations that we're hoping will be like a spin-off from this discussion we're having now. Access isn't just about who gets licenses. Equity is not just about who gets licenses. Equity is making sure that at every single point of production, commercialization, utilization, and just being a patient, that everyone has the same opportunity for knowledge, the same opportunity to make it a lucrative opportunity to make sure that they have the highest potential for the wellness of their body based on this being an equitable market.
Just one point I want to raise. Part of the challenge is that ganja is not listed as an agricultural product in Jamaica. It is listed as a pharmaceutical drug product. So when you think about business, there's no discussion surrounding ganja as agriculture. So all the standards that we're saying, all the post-housing requirements is based on it being a drug pharmaceutical as against being a plant that is used in agriculture. And that's the thing, one of the main reasons you buy up a person, you as a ganja farmer is not a registered farmer with RADA. And RADA is an institution that's supposed to register all farmers. You are going to get a growing license from a CLA, which is a regulatory agency for something else. And I was saying to the people then, first and foremost, every ganja farmer must register as a farmer with RADA. And the same incentives that are offered to farmers should be offered to ganja farmers as well. And I'm writing the same in the current policy for the MSME policy, that all ganja farmers are a part of the micro, small, and medium enterprise sector. And whatever incentives we offer to the MSMEs should be offered as well to the ganja farmers. So it's weird them actually state this thing that determines how people deal with it. And this then come to like all this thing with the medical fraternity. Just bear in mind the enslaved mind can't serve free people. Enslaved minds cannot serve free people. See, and even the people in the medical fraternity, look at how them treat themselves. Most doctors I know don't treat themselves well, because they dead from the same disease and them patients dead from eventually. As I say, so they can't really give me no meaningful insight. When I see how you live as a medical doctor now, I can determine if I need to take any form of advice from you. But if I look at you and I say, okay, well, this man, based on them look, we know him at risk of high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease, and all those things. So I'm going to ask you for medical advice. It just don't make no sense.
Give thanks. I want to make sure that we're being inclusive and that we are having a two-way conversation with the audience. Are there any questions that we have not recognized at this point? Any questions from the audience at this point?
So, Bridget,
Rastafari. Listen, the government of this country, he just said the word a while ago. They don't take ganja as agriculture. They take ganja as a job, pharmaceutical job. They don't take it as a contribution of herb to part the secret of men. I'm 88 years and I've been to a doctor for sickness. I use herb. Up to now, a herb I use. Right? I don't take 10 pills yet. When I'm born, I don't take 10 pills. I'm here right now. I don't take 10 pills that they sell in the drugstore. I go to the doctor. I go there, take X-rays, what's up to my body. I go to the farm and produce my own things. And juice it and drink it for my sickness that I have, that they said I have. When I bring back to them, they tell me plain that I'm not taking the drugs that they give it to me. Right? I say that I know that the drug that you give it to me is to keep it for a while to come to you every day. But I don't want that. So I eat my own plant, organic food. That's what I eat. Right? And I'm living right now 88 years of age. Right here now. How much doctors, how much teachers, how much liars, dead off since I born and come in this land here. I've been to Texas 3 times. Right? And I've been to Texas, and when I go there, it's herb I help here, you know. Plane will land right here in Jamaica and take away the herb up here. Several times, 3 times. When I go up here, I can't come out without a white man is here with me. If I put my head out here, I would be here today. Right? A white woman or a white man has to be in the vehicle with me. Right? And I go with distribute our herb for back to Jamaica. Even a policeman will take away one time from St. Elizabeth of Raheel in African. When he come to take up the bag of herb off the man's shoulder, lock him in the plane, and carry to America. You go to Nassau Barber and take off the uniform that he has on and buy uniform and give him. You can't to Texas and carry back here. You can't to Florida and leave it up and carry that.
There are so many
Right?
stories.
So, listen.
Yes, sir.
If the government of this country got serious, take the herb serious, the whole of us would be more than happy. Everybody would be wealthy. I would not have to pay no light bill. Would not have to pay no water rate. The ganja can provide it for us. Millions of dollars we go to America and get for her in those times. Millions. We here. And
We give thanks.
the bank,
Yes.
take away the money.
Yeah, and sir, this is a really good conversation and a timely conversation about the smuggler's role in cannabis preservation. In cannabis preservation. So there's so many stories. There's so many stories of creativity.
That's where it is. That's why the Rastafarians cannot better off in this country. And they have the bigger head set up here, and as the Rasta get the money, they take it away. They send us to prison. Send us to prison.
The truth has not been told. There is some execution. They would love to tell their stories, and there's things we don't know about. We got here, how we were able to retain these genetics that we're currently using today, the criminal oppression that took place, and also and not just by we also are always talk about the law enforcement, but also by the financial
And I come
community.
here as a serious and players of instrument. That's why we are Rastafarians. We never come here, I never come here as a slave. I come here as players and singers of instrument. That's how I come to Jamaica. I never come here as no slave. Rastafari never come here as no slave. Rastafari came to Jamaica as players and singers of instruments. We were spirituality people, spiritual people.
But the point you made
That's
that
why
I
we are
really
living
want to
this
highlight,
way.
give
We are
thanks for
living
that,
this
sir.
way. We keep this precepts without any apology. Already cut it off global.
Yes, ma'am.
Already cut it off. It's a reason.
Yes,
It's a
sir.
reason.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, 88 years of living,
Rastafari.
88 years of loving, 88 years of being a catalyst for all new things. And we honor that and we respect that. As we talk about, the smuggler's role in the Caribbean and around the world, there's ways that we're going to find out once we do need to do around amnesty so that people can have the freedom to share their stories. And it helps with regards to applying for jobs in this new emerging industry. It helps with regards to applying for licenses so you can compete equally with international people.
No one.
So there's a lot to be
No
learned,
one
and
like
we honor traditional knowledge, we honor our ancestors, we honor our elders at all times. With that said, one final call for questions. I'm going to switch out a few of the panel members just to allow tell you how it needs to be done. It is from a posture of equal sharing information so we can eliminate the gatekeeping that Dominic was talking about, where we're holding information so close. We think our only value is in the access to people and the information we have. And that's why we can't progress. When you look at, as Russ Buzzrock talked about, when we look at, the amount of money that came through into Jamaica through the smuggling community, when we look at Pinnacle and the self-sustaining environment that was created by Pinnacle, it's not difficult to replicate. The leaders of the past weren't greater than the leaders of the present. I think we just need the leaders of the present to really arise and decide, this is my lane, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to collaborate with others. I'm going to support others in their mission, in their lane. And that's where we get it wrong. Even if someone's another lane, jealous of them. We can't be in that. We're not want to begrudge somebody in their lane. If we stay strictly into what we were designed, the purpose that was put into us spiritually, and we also admire and uplift and recognize other people's gifts and purpose, and we look at opportunities to collaborate, pinnacle in today's society. That's how we become self-sustaining. That's how we pull resources from around the world into Jamaica instead of feeling like we have a brain. They're taking our ganja. They're taking everything, speaking things that are so specific to us. It's being commercialized, and funds are going elsewhere. Well, it's because we have to make sure that we understand how to work as a tapestry. Everyone has a purpose in this master plan. With that said, I'm bringing forward some of my friends from other areas of the world, mostly the United States. and we're going to switch out a couple of the panelists. Thank you, Mel, for sharing about different delivery systems. We honor you. Dr. Rosado, sorry. Thank you for your medical acumen and being brave enough to be a medical professional who, when given new information, wasn't afraid to change his position and correct it. With that said, I've seen the Dame Duchess. She is She has joined us. I'd like to call her forward. Please join us. The Dame Duchess, national superstar. She's a good as well. So she has our shared heritage, and she study and through practice, replication of her own experiments to optimize the usefulness of our plant which is called cannabis. Okay, I would also like to call forward Jay Mills. She has a booklet that she has developed for dispensaries so that they can educate community on the endocannabinoids, the minor cannabinoids spoke about. So in her aptitude for words, she's her lane and saying, I can educate people, but if I stand on stage, I can only affect the people who are with me. If I document it in a book, in a booklet, and then you have them give
any doctor source or anything when we were taking care of our. So to that end, I'm a writer. I've written farms to increase efficiency in their hash making, understand they can add extra products to their lines if they include concentrates, and whether it's a small farm or a large farm, that makes me very happy. But at the end of the day, doing community service and teaching to my community at no cost to them is really where it's at. So if I can take the opportunity to get into more rural situations where I can teach out of the idea of having to be in the lab equipment and understanding what hash is at its core, then we take the power back and take our money back, because hash is very, very expensive, but very, very good for us. So that's why.
Okay, thanks. The Dame Duchess, everyone. If you haven't yet, make sure you Google her, make sure you follow her. Her plants are very well loved and well treated. I'm going to take a moment to recognize our artists here. Not often do we get to see live art taking place. And I often say that, cannabis is progressed by activists, cannabis is progressed by artists, cannabis is progressed by our journalists. History is often his story. And if we don't capture in our art, in our journalism, what really is happening right now, that story is going to be retold. So, my brother, thank you so much for being here and participating. You are a vessel for the divine Almighty in the work that you do, and we're grateful. Give thanks. Yes, so I'm going to introduce my other sister, Jay Mills, coming in from the DC, Baltimore area, the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. She's so strong and wise in her words and her connection to the ancestors and her connection to the continent of ever present. Even if you look at the beautiful decoration of her face and her hair and her dress art as well. But she's so knowledgeable, and as mentioned, she has her book for medical dispensaries to educate patients. Jay Mills.
Just gonna shout out to the sound man. It's a beautiful thing to be out here in Rebel Saloon, here in Jamaica, where the culture, the medicine, the lifestyle is all one. To be an African American and know what they sow into us about how we should eat, things like vegan, keeping us away from the ideal way of life. Part of what inspired me with my books was my trips to Jamaica and just seeing generations and generations of knowledge and thinking of what I had learned. My background, Black woman to manage a cultivation center on the East Coast. I also managed a medical dispensary. I worked at the top of the corporate businesses. They love to take the brilliance for themselves, our intellectual properties and such. The books I wrote came from realizing that we didn't understand the technical terms. We knew anecdotally about this plant and what it did, but we didn't know about terpenes and what they are and the cannabinoids and exactly why this medicine does what it does and what temperature you should decarb at and all these different scientific nuances that are allowing people to capitalize on something that we've been penalized for generation after generation after generation. But knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. I'm passionate about education. At this point, I'm passionate about empowering people on how they can find their place in the supply chain, how they can get a license if this is something that they've been doing, that their family has been doing. What does it look like to do it in the light? Because we've been doing it in the dark and the shadows for a very long time. I'm excited to participate in this conversation, to share, to learn, to hear, to exchange ideas.
Thank you so much, Ms. J. Mills. Very iconic. And as we move forward in this conversation, we're going to talk a little bit about the balance between cannabis being progressed and the music industry. I'm going to invite Gary George. He's in the audience as well. He's going to come forward. But just based on what you've heard from the Dank Duchess with regards to hash, and the opportunity for hash to be a hashish to be a delivery system, delivery method here. Talking about a booklet in dispensaries as an educational tool. What are your thoughts being here on the island, being Jamaican, having studied and evaluated things around the world as global citizens? How do you feel about the fact that these are ideas that maybe we can integrate or maybe make sure they're culturally authentic for what we need?
When you talk about business, everything about value chain. Yes, how do we get value added? And actually, that the one of those value added products that can come out. And so it's about getting people to start thinking beyond the regular way we see the plant. Whether my brother here rubbing out the herb in my hand for a bonus split as one way of getting it. Or just using as steamers to get it in, or you're eating it. There are so many things. But I think part of what I want to connect with you, and the last sister said just now about the time that we're in. Because I think sometimes people just gloss over those things. We move from one age to the next age. We move from an age of belief, the Piscean age, into an age of Aquarius, an age of knowing. And Rastafari is a Rastafari don't believe, Rastafari know. So it's this age of Rastafari. It's the age of mentalism going by ear. So it's thinking. Why is this important? Because what is that ganja do? Ganja stimulates the ancient part of your brain. You know, so think about the three-dimensional thing, that think about things beyond the three-dimensional space. It's the plan of this age that we are in. You know, there is an interview that Bob had said. And Bob saying, why them fight against her? And I'm saying fight against her because they have a chance to think. That's what the status quo is afraid of. The status quo is afraid of a thinking person. See, most of us have been programmed to operate our automatic pilot to do A, B, C, D, E. Once the user start to use this plan, they say become rebellious. But rebelling against what? People don't rebel against things that make sense. When they start to think, they start to question these things and say these things make sense. It don't make sense. We don't follow a law that don't make no sense. So even the criminals of ganja was not for Rastafari people. The criminals of ganja was for violent people. People who were afraid to use, but want to use. You know, the decriminalize them actually using it much more, coming out into the open. You know, so the time and space and place, this generation of people who call Generation Z. What kind of characters they have? What are their mindset like? Without using herb, they have that same kind of mindset. They're very entrepreneurial and things, they're very creative, they're very innovative, they're self-determining. They want to do things on their own. And that's what the status quo is truly afraid. So they say they want to push medical ganja as against recreation. So recreation means that everybody will be able to use. You don't want everybody in society thinking. You don't want it. So we're going to push that component. I'm going to look for persons who are in a state of disease, in a state of imbalance, who will not be in a position to try the state of the okay, let's just let those persons use it. What if everybody starts to use the plant? And if you're born with that system as a receptors for the plant, but there is 1 year old, 2 year old, 10 year old, 50 years old, or 80 years old, it means it has function. You know? And earlier, our Dr. Bridget was, you mentioned about dosage. Bridget, you have a hypocrisy hot enough. If everybody is different physiologically, or when a guy have a headache, 10 people have the same headache, they give him two tablets. Yes, everybody different. How you know the same two tablets will work the same way for each person, give them different physiological makeup. It's an illusion. When you start to talk about plants now, when they be ganja or other form of herbs, you start to question about dosage. You know, it's a good thing that you know that you have natural balances that you can take. So you can either use a bird pepper, you can use ginger, you can use any of those spices that naturally balances out. Ganja itself has a natural balance with the CBD and things, you know. So I think we're in a very good space, a very good place and time, you know, to look at how the plant affects people, how you know the value chain with the ashes, how does that affect us, not only just physically or socially, but also economically, because that is, you know, people remain enslaved, not because of mental enslavement, but it's enslaved economically first, because the person who is economically depressed, they have no time even thinking about him himself. Him trying to make a hustle, and so you can do anything that you want to do with it. So if we start to liberate our people economically, we might see some significant changes. And so I want people to pay attention to what these senators are saying in terms of how we move along the value chain. The people with the least amount of money is the people who sell herb in the raw state of the plant. So it's like every other agriculture product. If you're just a primary producer of a product, you get the lowest amount of money. As they move up from primary to secondary to tertiary, they start to make more money. Yes? So we need to have that kind of conversation. That's why the herb curve is crucial. Because they see the pure plant versus all these other products that are being made from the plant itself. And if you think about ganja in Jamaica, it's a plant of the highest amount of diversity. Ganja farmers are the first that people start to adopt cleaner forms of technology in terms of agriculture plants. When we talk about climate smart agriculture, ganja have been doing that for years. Whether we're using drip irrigation system, or we're doing container gardening, whether we're doing integrated farming, all those things that have been doing. Ganja is the only plant that in Jamaica, a man will buy a seed, leave from we are St. Thomas. Look at seed in Westmoreland. They're not doing it for tomato, they're not doing it for cabbage, they're not doing it for anything else. Because they recognize you find a man having ganja seeds for years, and himself for Ella was here. People tell them about ganja seed 20, 30 years. Who keep a tomato seed for 20, 30 years? So we're talking about these heirloom. You know when you talk about heirloom? It's few things that make our heirloom, you know. One of the few plants you might find is a ganja seed that might be in sentan and sentan only, or a wild caliber seed. You know, so there's so much to learn. But I think this in the earth crop is extremely important because of the amount of information that is being shared. When you know, as any people say, an ounce of practice is worth a ton of theory. Let me just show you more, you know, come up on the platform and so you can go practice something like if that.
Definitely dropping knowledge. Thank you so much. For those who have just joined us, this is Dr. Knight. So he's definitely been sharing some of his wisdom with us. So we're going to ask Queen Mother Moses to join us. Queen Mother Moses from Rastafari community, Mother Love for sure, and she's done amazing work with what we call ganja war veterans, people who have been incarcerated and using her ministry, using her relationship with Jah to really transform lives. And I have like two really favorite words in the English language. One is enthusiasm, and transform is the other one. And she truly does that in her work. But I want to also thank the Dank Duchess and thank Jane Mills for being on. We're going to ask other people to join us as well. Tavian Crossland, Jess Fuhrer, if you'll join us as well. And then I'd like Kamal to comment on what they had to say earlier.
Okay, well, there was someone said earlier, that I thought about it. I actually love the passion and the drive from the elders, we can't remember to always listen to the elders. My chosen statement that I take my leave quickly is to say, they were saying each one teach one, I'm connected. And a lot of things start with a small group of people. It's like the effect of the mustard seed. So I'm just asking everyone here to go out and share the message with your community and get to know about the plant and the symbiotic relationship between man and the plant. I also recommend that you come over to the Herb Corruption brochure there, the Rastafari Mansion and Organization, the information on Raga, and I also have an interpretation of my own sacramental space, so come and share some sacrament with me in my space, Starscape, over in the field.
Give thanks, brother, for Rastafari blessings. Yes, Queen Mother Moses, please share a little bit more about your background. I gave a brief intro, but I want to make sure that you can really have everyone feel the magnitude of your work, how you utilize your tools and access to frequent flyer miles to really spread the word of Rastafari, but spread all the good news about the cannabis plant, and also making sure people know that you are not who they say you are. You are who Jah says you are. We give thanks to you, Queen Mother.
They say, people, are you ready? Oh, Lord, Jah Rastafari. I, the Empress Queen Mother Moses, bring you greetings through the power and love that is embodied in the people that recognize that herb was given for the healing of the nation. I give thanks that we did listen to the oral history that has been handed down, found on Solomon's grave. I know that we have learned in our African griot way of handing down the history orally. My grand uncle gave me my first chalice, and I will never forget, because when I took that draught of the chalice and the water bubble, and I feel I was into a whole different space and time. And my grand uncle said, "Calf, if you want cough. But I didn't want to cough. You overs. And at the time, them was down by the gully. Yeah, cassava piece, my man and go. I mean, nah, leave it. Because guess what? You know why it named cassava piece? Because it was a slave plantation. That was what was the major crop? Cassava. I moved the picker pepper factory out to where they know. And that's how it did there as part of the slavery thing. So it was my mother, Mama learning in a cassava piece where actually can give I and I the history that when they go up on Mac Hill, they are seeing these shackles. And they really don't understand what was going on. But I give thanks that my great-granddaughter, who is now the 7th generation, born free in a cassava piece. Even though my children born in New York and my grand and great-grand born in Atlanta, Georgia, they get their early childhood education. The same place me start, Ladis Gray Infant School in a cassava piece. Because if it can produce me, then he knows say it can produce them also to be the change agent in the world. Because guess what? I and I band from here, them a tell us that what? Africa awaits its creators. And we come know that Africa has been redefined in a 6th region. Because I and I not African because of where we are born. We are African because Africa born in I and I. Africa born in I and I. And the slave ships never did get no slaves. They got royal people that were enslaved and brought their practices. I will give thanks to the Indians and the history of the herb. Because when you go and talk about Indian, no Indian that know them history can deny that they are African. Because the Ganges River that provide all of this healing is named after the Ethiopian Emperor Ganges that was ruling beyond even India. That's why the Indians look so much like the Amara Indians, because they are. And the history of the fact of the matter is that the Indian Ocean that is at the southernmost part of Africa, before them change the name to Indian Ocean, it is on the map as the Ethiopian Ocean.
And it's true that cannabis is a multicultural plant and vehicle for healing and wellness. And I want to talk to you about your work in the area of healing and wellness for those who have been, I would say, also enslaved, but in modern times they call it incarceration. So let's talk about your work.
When it goes straight into that, because you know, in the United States of America, they had the Emancipation Proclamation. You also had Juneteenth though, because the Lord State never did recognize that. But guess what their constitution says? They free everyone except those that are incarcerated. And because of that, they continue to be treated as slaves. You others. And everything is done. And I have to talk right now about my story because cannabis has played a very important role that be here with the idea today. Because in 1989, I don't know if you can do the maths, they gave me 6 months to live from ovarian cancer. And time and even today, ovarian cancer remains one of the most deadliest cancer for females. You know, because it's healing of the nation and it's because of the cannabis. You know, see, the herb was the only thing when them tell me something stupid. After tell me something, I give up my life for me here. Because them things here, because the chemotherapy was like relax. When now on the ground.
Jamaican community, equity community, diverse community, women in community to bring about change. And it's a privilege to work with you on a regular basis and really hear your vision. I didn't mention before because I wanted to wait till my counterparts had arrived, but this area is sponsored by the Justice Foundation as indicated by the sign. But in addition, it's Edu-tain, and that's the company that Jess works with and works for as well. And she's the marketing director at Edu-tain. Is that the correct title? Close enough? Yeah, so she's an expert multitasker. And she's had the opportunity to really look at a company that starts from a small company with a team of visionary women and growing into multi-state opportunities and diversification. And that's one thing that we need to understand is we love the cannabis plant, especially here in Jamaica, but where can it take us? We need to start really creating our own thought leaders on where is it going to take us? How do we use the funds from this industry to revolutionize change with regards to housing, childcare, education, and other areas? So, having people like Jess in boardrooms allows us to see how cannabis funds can flow right back into community. How funds raised in New York are flowing through to create this symposium in Jamaica. So thank you for your work. I want you to share a little bit more of your experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Cheryl. Let's clap. She deserves all the clap. So this is, I'm really, really humbled and honored to be here again for the second time. It's just, everyone is just so welcoming, and to have honestly, the privilege and the honor to be here for the second time with you and just get to learn and show respect to your culture and everyone here in the plant has just been really incredible. And I work for, Cheryl mentioned, a company named Edu-tain. We were started by a mother and her two daughters who were looking for care for their sick grandmother who was sick with ALS and being prescribed all the pharmaceuticals, and they were looking for another way. Women and family found company. They got one of the first 5 licenses for medical cannabis in New York in 2015. So we really tried to continue to spread their message as the companies got still very involved. But medicine, as all the exciting things are happening in New York, always coming back to the core of that, but also in my everyday job, this is the best. I mean, what's better than this? And getting to also say, as a company, this is what we're doing. And I don't take no for an answer. I'm not going to start now. And I'm really just, again, so thankful to be here. And thank you everyone for sharing. And just thank you so much to Cheryl.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate our friendship and our calls where we talk about, where would the funds do the most good? And I encourage you, especially as Rastafari community, when we're seeing companies that are, utilizing this plant and that they're generating these revenues, become a part of their stakeholder team as they determine how these funds could create maximum impact in our community. So thank you for being my partner in that type of work. I'm going to hand off to Tavian Crossland, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of his very revolutionary thinking with regards to what is possible with restorative justice. We don't talk enough about restorative justice, and he really has a plan and a program that is very much possible. I don't want to spill all the beans, but I'd like you to hear from him and himself.
Hello, so how you doing? Tavian Crossland from Brooklyn, New York. My work when it comes to restorative justice and my approach really is anti-racist systems change. So, care for our community, reparations for our community, is something that I really think that we need to go for. Also for our own kind of our own interest. So it's like restitution for our own. I'm not looking for anybody to. Thank you. We're not looking for anybody to give us anything. We're talking about regular our own enterprise. So really, in that anti-racist systems change, collectivism, pro-black solidarity economy, and cooperative economics, and us actually working together as black people, bringing our businesses together, and making sure we're insulated as we go through this new cannabis industry, not only nationally, but eventually across the diaspora, because I'm going to be international as well, where that across the world, people use this plant as medicine and as a cash crop. And so we want to be able to take that power back, take that culture back, and really use that towards how we bring our communities economic restitution, economic justice. And when I speak about economic justice, I always want to put it in the context of non-exploitative, non-extractive sort of economies. You know, we're not talking about taking from people, we're actually talking about building people, edifying people. And so when you speak about economic justice, don't forget that part of it, right? And so that's actually on our labor side of taking, putting out hands, putting out ownership, and structuring that in a real way. Not in a way that's just, oh, we're going to work together, but actually doing deals together, making contracts together, making sure that businesses are working with one another. That's the thing that we want to make sure that we're locking in and not just leaving that to the universe to go through. We got to actually put that activity and that motion into the universe in order for that to come out on the other end, outcomes actually manifest. So that's really the work that I do. Started in New York State. I'm the equity director for Social Equity Empowerment Network, in New York, and that's kind of the work that see New York Social Equity Empowerment Network. And that's the work that we do. We educate around cooperative economics. We advocate for cooperative economics. We have a cooperative license type. We try to get folks into that industry and work together as worker owners, as former cooperatives. It's really making sure that throughout the supply of labor.
Fantastic. I love that supply chain empowerment and optimization. Really not asking anyone for anything. When have we done that? We don't ask for things. We want to be in a position where we can work hard for things and that we have an equal opportunity just like everyone else. I
And
thank
this
you
is
so
the
much.
link from the prisons to economic empowerment, because they are legacy players. So we have to prepare as they talk about community supervision. How are we going to empower them? We can't send them to get any jobs in any Fortune 500 company. So we have to prepare our community. And that's where I come in, because I am telling them that, guess what? I am here to tell you that I and your community, we want you home, but not with the same attitude or behavior that got you here in the first place. You overs. Because not everyone is guilty and not everyone is innocent. But we can change the thinking and mentality so that we can have this economic empowerment initiative for them to come home to and don't have to go forward into prison.
In prisons and really saying you are not a criminal, and just talking about, you mentioned the behaviors that got them there. Some of the behaviors are learned in there. So when you're in a cage, these behaviors that you learn, you don't have to take outside of the cage. And that's why you going in as a lover, as a listener, as someone who creates tools is really important, and I thank you for that today so much, Queen Mother Moses.
And thank you for all that you do, because you wear so many crowns, so many. I'm telling you, attorney, a daughter of Jamaica, born in the Americas and impacting the world on the continent of Africa, all of the regions of your grace. Here, give thanks.
We are great.
We are the ones we've been waiting on, but we come to serve. Put down the egos. Too much work is there. Enough for everyone. You overs, and we can't do it all by ourselves. We need to network. Let me tell you, slavery never get free because of all the people who look like me. That is the controversy in our humanity. Ja.
Rastafari. Rastafari. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna switch out again. Thank you so much. April, I'd like to bring April forward. She's gonna have some interesting perspective on eco-tourism and ganja tourism, which we know we have plenty of here in Jamaica, but it's always good to have new perspectives, and I'm hoping the audience may have ideas as well. Empress Ima, please come forward as well. All right, Empress Ima's traveled from New York as well, and Gary, you can come along.
As Empress I her seat, I have to recognize my son, the amazing Papa G, the boss swag in the audience. Now here I have to recognize him and Tony Rebel and Tony Rebel, you know. No, hold on. Yes. You know, truth must be told. You're over.
Please come forward.
My son is one of the legislators. We end up in a turn. You're over. And let me tell you now. Guess what? Two of the rebel come to America and they go to prison. So I look for my son, the amazing Papa G. So that we hear it. The two of the rebel and it's humanitarian work for people. Blessings!
That's powerful. Thank you. We give thanks to you. She's my sister in so many ways. Ethiopian World Federation, Local 12, first vice president. I sit as the president, and I have her by my side. I'm very grateful, eternally grateful to learn from you. Okay, give thanks. So, I have to my left a gentleman who has had so many different lives with regards to the plants and entertainment. He comes from the music industry. He understands how to market on a global scale. And he also said, let me figure out my place in this new emerging cannabis industry. And like, I'm going to do events. And then I'm also going to do. So, Gary, I'd like for you to share a little bit of background before we'll have to close because of the main stage. Please.
Right. All right. Thank y'all so much, man. My name is Gary George, as Cheryl said. I run one of the biggest cannabis conferences in New Jersey. It's called the Real Cannabis Entrepreneur Conference. My history with the plant goes way back since we were growing as guerrilla growers as teenagers. Came up through the music industry. Worked with a whole lot of entertainers. I was that dude with the green, that guy with the fire. I went on to record a whole lot of records, including Jay-Z, Unreasonable Doubt, two albums off of that, Big's album, Black Moon, Mary Jane, a whole bunch of other people. But really flipped it into doing what we're doing in the cannabis industry, man, bringing people back into it. And it's all about collaboration. It's just like Bob was talking about here. We can't do it as islands. Y'all. We got to get together. We got to start sharing the information, and that's what Cheryl's doing. Bringing us all together. That's what I do in my conference. Bringing everybody that got the knowledge. Think Dutchy, real information that the info need, and that's why I do it for the team, us. Examples of us, not them doing it, but us. And that was why I did this conference. I was tired of seeing other people's faces at every one of the cannabis conferences.
to represent Cheryl, man, because like she said, these are international girls with big. And that's why I love being aligned and making sure that all of our people, we can come together and form that Voltron and we can start to get busy. That's what it's all about, y'all. The more we do it, the more it learns together, the more we unstoppable, for real. And so it's just about us communicating, gotta start talking to one another, stop being islands. We get together. Let's go. Bless.
Bless. More fire, more fire. I'll go to my right first because I want to recognize Empress Ima. I think she has the most history in cannabis that has been on the stage tonight. Not in this space here because we are in Jamaica. So this is where it all goes down. We are the mecca. We are the mecca for cannabis. So Empress Ima, share a little bit about your background. I love her. She's my mother. She's my sister. She's my friend, mentor, and so many things. Let me share the microphone with you.
Yeah, first night was a great night. Marvelous presentations of our reggae music. Yes, I am tonight to be a great night. Yeah.
Yes,
Burn it up.
well, I've been in the cannabis business
DJ
for over 50 years. And I heard one mention about prisoners tonight. There's different kinds of prisoners tonight. There's the prisoner that was caused by cannabis arrest. You come to America from Jamaica, St. Thomas, St. Vincent, Trinidad.
Are you ready?
And then you can't come out and visit your family where you came from. You can't when your mother might pass, or your brother, or your sister. So you've been imprisoned in America, in the UK, in Paris, in France. Yes, there are different kinds of prisoners. Yes, over 50 years in the cannabis industry. And I'm not willing to settle for crumbs that fall off the table. There are those in the cannabis industry now that they were anti-cannabis. They called us drug dealers. Now they want to be at the head of the line. And we're supposed to be at the back of the line. No, we have to make changes. I'm a past president and international organizer of the Ethiopian World Federation, His Majesty's organization. Yes, and through that organization, we can make cannabis all over the world and unite us as a people. We have to have our own brand, a Nyabingi brand, a Bobo Shaka brand, a 12 Tribes of Israel brand. Where are our brands? Our brands. Yes. So yes, over 50 years, and I'm not going to sit by and be quiet and let somebody else receive while we get some crumbs. We have to come together, put aside our petty differences, and work together. Just as reggae is a uniting force, so is cannabis. Cannabis is a uniting force. It can unite all of our house families. It can fund repatriation. We don't just have to talk about it. There's real money in cannabis. Ones know that in the 90s, as compared to 2024, we made more money off of cannabis in the 90s when it was illegal. Now it's legal, and we're not making the most money. No, California is not the cream of the crop, nor is the Netherlands the cream of the crop. Give me some Jamaica in the car and some Jamaica land bread. It's the best herb in the world. We're supposed to be at the front of the line. Don't let anybody else get in the front of the line before us. Let us stand together and come together and use it for education, our own schools, not sending our children to somebody else's school, our own schools. Let us do industry together. How in 2024 we gotta fly through America or fly through Europe to go to Africa when it's like 6 hours away? That don't make any sense. Why aren't we trading between between the Caribbean and Africa. Let us start with the cannabis. The best cannabis I had in the world is Jamaica and Azania, South Africa. Those are the best collie in the world. So let's step up, step together, and let's make this happen.
Yes, thanks. Love, love, love. Why aren't
All the folks get the cheers right now. Bring in the king. Everybody get up. Let's go.
I'm going to move on to April. So April is a member of our community, and she's a true visionary with regards to ecotourism, with regards to tourism. People, when they're picking the places where they want to vacation, they're thinking of, am I safe here if I consume my cannabis? Does it have a balcony outside? Or with these are considerations of our community, because we need to keep our community safe. So April, please share your vision.
Can I hear you?
I'm April, and I am the founder and entrepreneur of a we are a 14-room cannabis and plant medicine friendly retreat that we're creating.
Yes, DJ, so the visual selector.
All of us, right, is education, because that's what we need to get to the next level. There's too much fear here. There's a lot of anxiety
It's great to hear you. Let's go. We're in the saloon.
It's bizarre for us to be looking at it in that way when it's exactly what's supposed to heal us. And noise is power. The only thing that can defeat that fear is for us to continue to do what we're doing. So I'm humbled to be on stage with all of these great teachers. At the end of the day, that's what we all are. We're all educators. And we're all trying to educate people on plants so that we can have safe spaces. And that's what our goal is, to have safe spaces. All of the rooms that are retreat are so friendly. Recognize a lot of the people are using this plant for medicinal reasons. They're finding medicinal or not. And it's important for them to know that they don't necessarily have to go outside. A lot of the people that we're dealing with are families. They don't need to go and stand in the cold and consume their medicine. We want to be able to provide spaces and provide spaces for educators to come together. And that's our goal at Yaad, to really unify the different pieces of the cannabis
Can somebody
community.
say the name for me, please?
Wow. Unification. Safe spaces. We don't take for granted that now we have safe spaces. You can find that spot. You can consume cannabis without police intervention. I heard Amy about it just this week. Behind the dumpster in this place. That's where we all used to smoke. We are in an environment we don't have to do that anymore. Rastafari have our ganja all across Jamaica. It didn't happen by accident. It was the work of activists. It was the work of brave people standing up and on the backs of people who served time. Who paid the price for us to have that amount of liberty and freedom. I'm directly behind the camera, but I love him so much. Ross Jomo with all his oh my God, good energy. That's good energy. He's a journalist. He is on the radio in Buffalo, New York. He has been part of the team for the largest Kwanzaa celebration in the United States. Juneteenth celebration, keeping our heritage and culture and pride alive. I love you. Look forward to doing more work. And he's always, if I don't see him in New York for years, I'll see him every year in Rebel Salute. Thank you. Big thanks. Moving on to Keely Weedy. She's going to share all the great things she's doing, and we're going to close out just making everybody have an opportunity to enjoy the concert. But we want to educate before we educate before we recreate, and that's what they do in Harlem. That's what we do here at Rebel Salute. One Rastafari community educating the world. Keely, we give thanks to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm from Minneapolis, Maryland. My name is Keely. My name is Keely, but my brand is Keely, and it's a cannabis lifestyle brand. It's found solely by women companies. It's found solid in cannabis, escape in the opioid epidemic. I have brain surgery in 2016. They had me on a lot of different
Well, I'm not going too bad.
My cannabis
When
brand
this
is
artist
KP.T.
drop out massive,
It was found solely
when
by
it
a
transition
woman of
on,
color, me.
I cry like a
He
baby
found
because I used
solace
to
in
love
cannabis
power with
while
it.
escaping the
And this
opioid
is one of
epidemic.
my greatest Jamaican
I had
artists
brain
in
surgery
love
in
to my heart.
2015 and they
When
had me
it's
on a
dead,
bunch of narcotics. They had me day. I couldn't put myself on it, right?
I want them sugar miner, 2 hands up in the air. Brother son, now 2 hands up in the air.
Get off of those medications and I learned about the Edu-tain what it does for me is different profiles of it. How much it helps. Yeah, it does have medicinal benefits. It is, and that's what my brand is about. Helping to break the stigma and helping to release the stigma. Helping a real life person. And it works. And
do you remember this one now?
advocate for ourselves and teamwork, teamwork. And we have to work.
This is
And I think, one thing I want to say about K.P.T is he really broke ground with having a culturally authentic brand. My first t-shirt in cannabis that represented me as a black woman was a teeny weeny t-shirt where it had a woman with an afro from Africa. K.P.T, and I cherish that t-shirt. Every time I would see her at a conference, I'd say, because she is instilling pride and she's changing the dynamic of saying, oh, cannabis users or cannabis businesses have to be owned by mainstream America. No, it is authentically ours. And she brought that to the forefront in a way that I still have not seen. So let's make something authentic with the community. I love you. Thank you for your attention. I want to give honor to the performers who are coming on today. Again, recognizing Tony Rebel and we give thanks. Me, Dominic, forever.